football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
This week on the podcast, Coach, let's talk about the little things that can win in retirement, right? So our football and finances thing, where we're going to kind of keep merging the two passions that you have. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit, because it is the little things that win games and win in retirement, right? So it's a great analogy. Let's get into it.
Absolutely.
Break it down for us. What do you got?
There's always details we always talk about. And you hear in football, you watch the game, they always say, hey, it's a game of inches and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to the fact that there's little details that we have to be, observing and be prepared for in the game of football. And I think that's a perfect correlation to some of the little things we have to have in retirement. We all know the big things in retirement: diversification, okay, tax strategy, okay, we get that too. But there's a lot of little details behind that. And so in the game of football, some things that when I'm watching a game with friends, one thing I'm noticing is the splits. How close are the players aligned to each other? The way I coach my defensive backs, my cornerbacks, is to be aware of where that wide receiver lines up. The closer to the sideline he is, the more he's got to go inside towards the field. The further away from the sideline he is, the more likely he's going to run what we call an out route or run towards the sideline.
Right.
There are ways you set yourself up as a defensive player to kind of force that guy to do what you want him to do.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of where he lines up, that little detail. You'd be surprised how many times I watch a game, even all the way up to the collegiate level, where the defensive backs don't have any difference in how they're aligning depending on where the wide receiver aligns. That's a little detail that people should always be aware of when you're watching the game of football. Same thing with linemen. The wider their splits will tell you one thing. The tighter their splits will tell you a different type of running play. Those are little details that people should always be aware of.
Nice.
Another thing to always be aware of: who's on the field. I mean, really, we call it personnel groupings. So always be aware of who is going to be on the field, what type of player it is. Sometimes you'll have a bigger player that isn't quite as fast. It's going to be more of a blocker. You may have a smaller player that isn't as big. That's more of a runner or receiver, something like that. Knowing who is on the field will help you determine, again, a defensive strategy, or vice versa. If you're on offense, knowing how the defense has their personnel and their guys out there. So
and that's just like your portfolio right there. I mean, knowing who's on the field, right? Like knowing what you've got, why you got it.
Correct.
So that's an easy tie-in.
It's a very simple detail, and it's something that but you have to know it in the game of football. If you're missing that detail, the other team can absolutely take advantage of that lack of understanding, that lack of knowledge on that.
Yeah.
So that the last one I want to talk about was again kind of leverage. Where's the guy aligned, but kind of knowing where you can align as well. If you just line up straight off of a guy in the game of football, he can go any way he wants. So you want to kind of line up one way or another, or if you're on offense, you can attack one way or another. And they're very subtle. You don't want to just go straight inside or straight outside. You want to attack a shoulder or a part of the body of the defender. There's little things you can do, and we just call that leverage. And I'm always talking when, again, I'm sitting around watching the Super Bowl, enjoying watching the Chiefs lose. Did I say that out loud? And I'm seeing that the Eagles, one of the things they do very well on defense is they use their leverage very well. How they line up and how they use leverage, especially their safety, who I drew a blank with.
I got you, though. I know what you're talking about, but Slay? Was it Slay?
I'm drawing a blank, yes.
Yeah.
But he was a rookie, and he did a fantastic job.
Oh, yeah, the other kid. The one that, DeJean, I think, or Dijon or something.
Yes, DeJean. That's exact what it is. Great, smart player.
Yeah.
I think that's what the Eagles wanted, was a smart player.
Well, think about leverage. The tush push is all leverage.
It is a different type of leverage. But
right.
But yeah, so these are the little details, and I could go on for 3 hours on all the details that are in the game of football, but these all relate to finance as well. And there's a lot of details that we need to have when we're setting up our retirement and getting ready for retirement that we need to be aware of.
Well, I mean, those little details could be something like timing your RMDs, right? Perfect. Or at least the first one anyway.
Yeah, the first one is a great example, Mark. So the first RMD, you're allowed to hold off on your first RMD till April 1st of the following year, not April 15th, April 1st of the following year. You're allowed to wait until then to take your first RMD. The reason why I think the IRS understood years ago that sometimes people just forget or they don't know. It's their first year. So you kind of give you a little bit of latitude. So you can go see your tax person, and your tax person would say, by the way, you're supposed to have taken your first required minimum distribution. Well, the problem with that also can be because if a lot of people that have an advisor say, I want to delay,
Mm-hmm.
well, now all of a sudden you're going to have 2 RMDs in 1 year, because from there on out, you have to take your required minimum distribution by December 31st of every year. So there's a tax hit there. There's going to be a tax hit of 2 distributions in 1 year when you may not have needed that. Another nuance you can do with your RMD is if this was the situation and you're planning ahead of time, you could do what we call a qualified charitable distribution, the QCD.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of time both of those together to work to minimize your taxes. But it's important to know, it's okay to delay. If that works out for you, fine. But it's a little detail you should be aware of the good and the bad to that.
Well, and the little details to add to that, Coach, is the fact that, they keep moving the ages around for the RMDs, right? So you want to make sure that you've got the right age.
75 for a lot of people,
so,
yes.
Yeah, 73 currently, right? And it used to be 70 and a half, then it went to 72, now it's 73. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned the QCD, it's still left at 70 and a half.
70 and a half.
Right, so little details, right?
Yes, that's a great example. Thank you, Congress. We don't know. So
yeah, just those little details in there. Another one might be withholding errors on pensions, right?
I see this. We're recording this right after tax season, and I had to have the talk with not 1, not 2, but 3 different couples regarding their withholding. They were owing several $1,000s, and I'm looking at what they had on their 1099-R, and they'll have a pension of say $60,000 or $70,000, and they'll only have $4,000 withheld. And I'm like going, well, that makes at least have 10%. Do your tax tithe, if you will.
Right.
But you should work to 15%. There's a W-4P that you file with your with the pension provider, the custodian, and that is something you need to be on top of. You need to be on top of your withholding. It's not like it was when you were working, where you used to be able to claim married 2 or married 6 or whatever. Now with withholding, it's a lot different, and you need to work closely with your pension provider so that you can have enough taxes withheld. Or you got to start paying estimates, which are a real pain. So work on the W-4P. If you need financial help or some tax help, talk to your tax advisor, or you can contact us. We can kind of figure that stuff out for you pretty easily.
Yeah, and speaking of taxes, if you do need some help with that, check this out.
John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by RescueMyRetirement.net. That's RescueMyRetirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's RescueMyRetirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California.
All right, so we're talking about these little details like you were highlighting in the beginning of the podcast, Coach, with, in football, there's these little nuances that you coach your players on. And so we're kind of talking about little nuances, to be coached on in retirement here. This one is one that, gets a lot of people. So it's, we got Uncle Sam in our pocket and we got our lovely Aunt Irma in our pocket. And a lot of people haven't heard of Aunt Irma, but she's got her hand in there as well. And that's the Medicare Irma surcharges. And I'll let you kind of break that down. But it's a tricky one because it's a 2-year delay on this thing, right?
Yeah. So your Medicare premium, depending on what the amount may be, we'll call it $170 a month, whatever it may be. Depending on your income level, it bumps up $40. I'm giving you rough numbers here, $40, $45, and then it bumps up further if your income can be higher. So every large jump in income, it goes up, and you can be charged more on a monthly basis for the entire year. And again, it's looking back 2 years, so it's basing your income from 2 years ago, not this year. And so an example that I have to avoid with these Medicare IRMAA surcharges is if you have a one-time event. This is what I usually see. You have a one-time event, whether it be a Roth conversion or a client I just recently had, they sold some property and they had a capital gain of over $200,000 that affected their IRMAA surcharges.
And bumped it, yeah.
Yeah, there is a form you can file, an SSA 44 you can file with the Social Security Administration that will actually, you basically say, by the way, this is a one-time thing. This is not usual. Can you keep me at the correct rates? And they'll review that. I have never heard them deny that, but I suppose that you could be the first.
Sure.
But they will take a look at that, and they'll reconfigure the Medicare premiums for the correct amount for your current income.
And is that something you help clients with as well?
Yes. So it's something you should be aware of. It's a very easy form to fill out, actually. It's like 3 lines on it. They're basically just saying, hey, something weird happened, but don't penalize me for that. Don't penalize
me, yeah. So it's what? Income-related monthly adjusted something or another?
Yes, income-related monthly, yes.
Yeah, IRMAA, right?
IRMAA.
And so, but that's a great point, because if you do have larger income years, and typically it does happen with a Roth conversion conversation, that just realize that it's 2 years, back looking. So you want to make sure, or 2 years later, that you want to make sure that, that doesn't bite you in the tush when it comes to that. So again, little details.
Little details.
Well, all right. Beneficiary designations. Now, this one we've done a podcast on. We can do another one on it as well. But not changing those a lot of times is little details, right? I mean, it can be a big problem, little details, but do it on all the accounts too, like non-retirement accounts as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's something we see a lot because if you don't do, you can do for a lot of accounts, and in California, you can actually do for real estate now, a transfer on death designation, a beneficiary designation for a regular brokerage account. They're very easy to do. Our custodian that we work with most closely is Schwab, Fidelity as well, and they have very, very easy forms. All you basically have to do is have the beneficiary that you may have for your IRA. Now, you can have different beneficiaries. You can name me. You can name the football coach at the local high school. You can name anybody you want as a beneficiary. But if you don't have a beneficiary on one of your brokerage accounts, it can go to probate, and that can delay things, especially if you don't have that account including your will or your trust, or you don't have a trust at all. That can delay things. Whereas if you have a beneficiary designation on that account, super easy. It immediately goes to the beneficiary that you designated.
Right.
And so it's very important. I think it's an easy, low-hanging fruit thing to do, is have beneficiaries for all your accounts, including your bank accounts.
All right. So I'm going to pull one more out of the hat. We're going to put you on the spot here. So what's a trap play in football, Coach?
A trap play is where there's a guy that's right in front of you and you don't block him. You block somebody else. One of your teammates comes and blocks him from the side and basically knocks the holy what out of him.
We typically see a lineman pull, right? And go the
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So go ahead.
So it's a great play. It takes a lot of practice and nuance, but it's a play that basically tricks the defense and punishes them physically for doing that as well.
And you got to have the details right to pull the play off, right? Well, another one, a little trap, we'll go financial here, the employer stock tax trap, right? Mm-hmm. So what is that?
Yeah, so there's something called net unrealized appreciation in a lot of your 401ks. You people that are watching this, especially if you're close to retirement, I have a perfect example. I have a client that had been an employee of FedEx for 30 years, something close to that.
Okay.
They had within their 401k, what FedEx was doing was they were matching their matching portion in their 401k was done through FedEx stock. So this guy had accumulated well over $250,000. I want to say it was around $350,000, depending on the day of the week and the stock price. But he had a lot of net unrealized appreciation. Now, what you can do with net unrealized appreciation, if you're going to transfer your 401k into a self-directed IRA, you can separate it out. You can segregate the stock and actually designate that so that in the future you can pay capital gains rates instead of ordinary income tax rates. That's a huge, huge win. We all know that capital gains rates under current law are around 15%. I know there's some subtlety there, but we'll call it 15%. And then ordinary income tax rates are the higher rates, where we have 15, 22, 24, 32%, and so on. And those could also actually go up. So there is a big, big difference. And I tell people, depending on your tax bracket, you're talking about 15 to 20% savings by using the net unrealized appreciation. So it's a tax trap to leave your stock in your 401k and then just take distributions out of your 401k that way. You have to do this intentionally and deliberately, separate out the company stock. If you don't do it, you'll be paying a lot more in taxes than you need to.
All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed football and finances, how they have some similarities there, because these are two passions for Coach. And so if you got some questions, need some help, that's why you sit down with a qualified professional. That's why you work with a coach, right? In any kind of industry or field, it's always good to have somebody there coaching you along the way. So if you need some help, reach out to John. We got a bunch of links in the show descriptions below for his main website, mearsmoney.com. You can also go to bookachatwithjohn.net. If you don't want to remember all that, we got it in the links below. It pops up on the screen and all that good stuff too. But click on the links to get there and get some time onto the calendar with Coach. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and of course YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, and ring that notification bell to catch new episodes when they come out. Certainly appreciate the support on the channel, and that way you hopefully learn more little nuggets of useful information between football and finances. So, Coach, thanks for breaking it down, buddy.
Thank you. It was great. Details matter, folks. Know that.
They matter. Absolutely. We'll see you next time here on Red Zone Retirement Program, Simple Investing, Smart Future with the one and only Coach John Mears.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License number 0685203.